Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that might just shift your entire perspective. God has a plan for you. Not might have, not possibly, he does. Right now, right here, whether you feel it or not, whether you see it or not, the plan is already in motion. See, too many people walk around acting like they're a cosmic accident, like they were born into chaos with no direction, no purpose, no destiny. But that's a lie. That's a deception designed to keep you small. And let me tell you something, you were never meant to be small. God didn't make you to just survive. He made you to thrive. He didn't put breath in your lungs so you could live a life of fear, regret, and mediocrity. He gave you life because he's got a mission for you. He put you on this earth because you are part of a bigger picture. And even when it feels like everything's falling apart, oh, believe me, it's actually falling into place. You may be going through struggles. You may have faced loss, failure, rejection. But listen closely. The valley doesn't cancel the promise. The delay doesn't mean denial. The storm doesn't mean he left you. It means he's preparing you. Preparation always comes before elevation. You've got to go through the pressure to become the diamond. You were created to thrive, not just survive. That truth right there shatters the limitations we've been conditioned to accept. Too often, people wake up every day simply trying to make it through. They live on autopilot, going through routines, checking boxes, getting by, and calling it a life. But existence was never the goal. You weren't put on this earth just to breathe air, pay bills, and die. You were designed by a creator who operates in abundance, in purpose, in overflow, and his intention for you was never mediocrity. You weren't meant to just get through life. You were meant to rise in it, expand in it, impact through it, and leave a legacy because of it. Survival mode might be where you started, but it's not where you're supposed to stay. Survival is reactive. It's about dodging bullets, avoiding pain, and settling for less just to make it to the next day. But thriving is proactive. It's intentional. It means you're growing, you're producing, you're stepping into the fullness of who you are and who you were created to be. Thriving is about operating in your purpose, using your gifts, and living with joy and conviction, even in the face of pressure. It's about seeing challenges not as stop signs, but as stepping stones. It's about knowing that what's inside of you is bigger than anything coming against you. But here's the thing, thriving isn't always about external success. It's not about the car you drive, the clothes you wear, or how many followers you have. Thriving is about alignment. When your spirit is aligned with your purpose, when your mindset matches your mission, when your actions are connected to your assignment, that's thriving. You could be in a storm and still thrive. You could be in a wilderness season and still flourish, because thriving starts on the inside. It's not about what's happening to you. It's about what's happening in you. It's about growth, strength, clarity, and resilience. The world will try to convince you that playing small is safe, that settling is responsible, that blending in is wise. But you weren't created to blend in. You were created to stand out. You weren't made in the image of average. You were made in the image of the Most High. And he didn't give you vision, talent, creativity, and power so you could bury them under fear and doubt. He gave them to you so you could multiply them, pour them out, and use them to shift atmospheres and change lives. That's what thriving looks like. Not just receiving, but giving. Not just growing for yourself, but growing to overflow into others. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught to be content with just enough. Just enough peace, just enough money, just enough strength to not fall apart. But just enough is not the language of the kingdom. The God who created you deals in abundance. He's the God of more than enough. And if he placed you here with breath in your lungs and purpose in your bones, then he expects you to walk in that overflow. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and yes, even financially. You were built to expand, to elevate, to overcome, and to influence. When you're thriving, you inspire others to rise. When you're thriving, your presence speaks louder than your words. People can feel it. Your energy, your vision, your drive, and they begin to realize that maybe they weren't born to survive either. Maybe they were made to thrive too. Your thriving becomes permission for others to do the same. Your example becomes a blueprint. And the moment you stop living like you're just trying to make it and start living like you were born to reign, that's the moment everything begins to shift. God's plan is intentional, not accidental. That's a truth that once it truly sinks into your spirit will change the way you walk, the way you talk, and the way you show up in the world. Too many people go through life like they're the product of chance, like they just happen to be born at a certain time in a certain family in a certain place, and that everything since then has been one big random roll of the dice. But that couldn't be further from the truth. There is nothing random about you, nothing random about your existence, nothing random about your gifts, your voice, your mind, your story, or your journey. Every single detail of your life was known and planned before you ever took your first breath. Think about that. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, he knew you. Not just knew of you, he knew you. That means he had thoughts about you, intentions for you, assignments for you. You're not an afterthought. You're a divine idea wrapped in skin. You are the result of strategy, not spontaneity. You are placed on this earth with purpose built into your design, your fingerprints, your personality, your passions, your struggles. They are not coincidental. They are connected to your calling. They are tools, not accidents. And yet we're so quick to believe the lie that we don't matter. We compare ourselves to others and feel like we're behind, like we're less valuable, like we missed something along the way. But God doesn't do generic. He doesn't do copy paste. He creates original blueprints, custom design purposes, and divine timings. What you see as flaws, he sees as features. What you think disqualifies you, that's how intentional he is. Even the detours in your life, the ones you regret, the ones that hurt, the ones you never saw coming, were not unknown to him. He doesn't need perfect conditions to bring his plan to pass. He can use every broken piece, every bad decision, every painful experience, and still guide you straight into the center of his purpose. Nothing is wasted when God is in it. His plan is not fragile. It's not thrown off by your humanity. It's built to withstand the storm because he factored in your entire journey from the beginning. You don't have to figure it all out to trust that there's a plan. And you don't have to see every detail to start moving in alignment with it. What matters is knowing that your life is not the result of random events. You're not walking through chaos without direction. You're walking through a process that was crafted with care. And if you feel like you've made too many mistakes, like it's too late, like you missed your moment, remember this. God's plan doesn't have an expiration date. His intention for your life isn't invalidated by your past. In fact, it often uses it as part of the story. When you understand that God's plan is intentional, you stop second-guessing your worth. You stop doubting whether your voice matters. You stop living small and safe, and you start stepping boldly into the space you were created to occupy. You stop waiting for permission from the world and start receiving direction from the one who made you. That awareness changes everything. Because when you know your life is intentional, you can endure the hard seasons with faith, move through uncertainty with confidence, and build your future with expectation. Pain is preparation, not punishment. That's a mindset shift that will completely transform how you handle struggle. Most people see pain as a sign that something is wrong, as if hardship is some kind of cosmic penalty. But what if pain isn't there to break you, but to build you? What if the pressure isn't meant to destroy you, but to develop the strength you didn't even know you had? What if the things you thought were setbacks were actually setups for your next level? Pain doesn't show up to ruin your life. It shows up to reveal what's been hidden, to refine what's been dull, and to unlock what's been buried inside you all along. No champion is born without challenge. No diamond is formed without heat. No muscle is built without resistance. You can't pray for strength and expect comfort. You can't ask for growth and expect ease. There's a cost to becoming who you were created to be, and pain is often part of the process. That doesn't mean you deserve it or that you did something wrong. It means you're being shaped, molded, fortified. And that's not punishment, that's purpose in action. That's God preparing you for what you've been asking for, stretching you so you can carry what's coming. because the weight of your calling demands a stronger version of you. Sometimes the pain you feel is not about the moment you're in, it's about the future you're being prepared to step into. It's about the lives you're going to impact. It's about the responsibility you're going to carry. It's about the opportunities that are being built around you while you're in the fire. Pain has a purpose, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it feels unfair, even when all you want is for it to stop. In those moments, you have to remind yourself that preparation is never pretty. It's not glamorous. It's not easy, but it is necessary. There's a reason the most powerful people you've ever heard of all have stories filled with hardship. It's not a coincidence. It's not accidental. The pain they went through created depth, compassion, wisdom, and resilience. Those qualities don't come from comfort zones. They're forged in fire. They're built in silent nights and lonely seasons. They're carved out through loss, failure, betrayal, and heartbreak. And yet, every painful chapter carries with it the potential to become a launching pad if you choose to see it through the right lens. Your pain might be personal, but it's also preparation for something bigger than you. What you learn in pain becomes your testimony. What you overcome in pain becomes your message. The strength you develop in pain becomes your authority. And the healing you walk through becomes the evidence that transformation is real. There are lessons in pain that you can't get from a textbook. There are revelations that only come when you're face down, broken, unsure, and desperate. That's when the real preparation happens. That's when your character is shaped, your faith is stretched, and your vision is sharpened. And let's be honest, sometimes we're only willing to grow when it hurts. Comfort can lull us to sleep, but pain wakes us up. Pain makes you pay attention. Pain makes you look inward. It forces you to reevaluate, to shift, to evolve. It's not always fair, but it's often effective. Because the greatest breakthroughs come on the other side of the greatest battles. And while no one volunteers for pain, if you're willing to embrace it, you'll come out of it with more than just survival. You'll come out equipped, empowered, and prepared for the next level of purpose you're meant to walk in. Delay is not denial. That's one of the most powerful truths you can hold on to when life seems slow, stuck, or off track. Because we live in a world that moves fast, that rewards instant gratification, that pushes constant progress. It's easy to believe that if something hasn't happened yet, it's not going to happen at all. But timing isn't just about speed. It's about preparation. When you don't see results immediately, it doesn't mean the vision is dead. It means it's still being developed. It means the pieces are still falling into place. It means you're not being rejected, you're being refined. There are some doors you're asking to be opened that would crush you if they open too soon. There are blessings you're praying for that require a stronger, wiser, more grounded version of you to sustain them. Delay gives you time to grow into the person who can handle what you're asking for. It's not about withholding, it's about preparing. It's about making sure the foundation is strong enough to carry the weight of what's coming. Because if you rush into something you're not ready for, it can become a burden instead of a blessing. Delay teaches patience. It teaches trust. It exposes what you really believe. It shows whether you're committed to the process or only committed to the outcome. If you give up because it's taking too long, that wasn't faith, it was convenience. True faith stands in the waiting room, still believing, still preparing, still sowing seeds even when there's no visible harvest. Because you know that just because you don't see it now doesn't mean it's not growing. Just because the door is closed today doesn't mean it's locked forever. And just because you haven't received the answer doesn't mean the answer isn't coming. Think about nature. Think about the seed buried underground. No one sees it sprouting. No one hears it breaking through the soil. But something is happening, even in the dark. Growth is taking place. Roots are being established. And in time, what was hidden will be revealed. That's what delay feels like. It feels like nothing's happening. But beneath the surface, there's movement, there's progress. And when it finally breaks through, it happens suddenly. But that suddenly moment was preceded by a long season of silence and stillness. Delay is the cocoon before the butterfly. It's the training before the debut. It's the groundwork before the elevation. Sometimes delay isn't even about you. It's about the people you're called to impact. It's about the timing that brings the right people, the right opportunities, and the right resources into alignment. Rushing the process can lead you to the wrong assignment, the wrong room, the wrong outcome. But delay puts you in position for divine timing, where everything flows with purpose and clarity. When you understand that delay is part of the strategy, you stop resenting it and start respecting it. You stop questioning God's timing and start aligning with it. Every delay carries a lesson. It may be teaching you endurance. It may be revealing areas where your trust still needs to grow. It may be uncovering pride, impatience, or fear that would sabotage the blessing if it arrived too soon. Delay is not punishment, it's preparation. It's a mirror that shows you who you are becoming in the waiting. And the version of you that emerges from the delay is always more equipped than the version that entered it. There's something sacred about the space between the promise and the fulfillment. It's where faith is proven. It's where character is forged. It's where the real transformation happens. Faith activates the plan, not perfection. This truth flips the script on everything culture tries to teach about success, purpose, and destiny. The world says you need to have it all figured out before you start, that you have to be flawless, polished, and fully equipped before you step into your calling. But the way God works is completely different. He's not waiting for your perfection, he's waiting for your faith. He's not asking you to have all the answers, he's asking you to trust that he does. It's not about presenting a perfect version of yourself, it's about saying yes, even when you feel like you're not enough. Faith is not about feelings, it's about movement. It's about stepping even when the path isn't clear, even when the outcome is uncertain, even when fear is screaming louder than confidence. It's taking action in obedience, not because you have all the resources, but because you believe the source. Faith is the currency of heaven. It's what God responds to, not talent, not status, not image. He responds to belief. And when you move in faith, things start to align that logic can't explain. Doors open that qualifications can't unlock. Opportunities appear that you didn't see coming. Why? Because your faith activated the plan. Waiting for perfection becomes a trap. You wait until you feel ready, until it's safe, until the timing seems ideal. But that moment rarely comes because perfection isn't the starting line, it's an illusion. If you wait for perfect, you'll stay stuck. You'll talk yourself out of the very thing God called you to do. Faith says, I'll move even if I feel scared. Faith says, I'll speak even if my voice shakes. Faith says, I'll show up even when I don't feel qualified. Because the assignment doesn't need your perfection, it needs your yes. It needs your willingness to trust God more than you trust your own limitation. Throughout history, God has always used imperfect people to do incredible things. Moses had a speech issue. David had a messy past. Esther didn't come from royalty. Paul had a history of persecution. None of them were perfect, but they had faith. They had obedience. They said yes, and that yes was enough for God to use them powerfully. It wasn't their resume that qualified them. It was their faith that positioned. The same is true for you. God doesn't need you to be flawless. He just needs you to be available. When you walk by faith, you learn to depend on something bigger than yourself. You stop relying on your own strength and start leaning into divine direction. You stop trying to control every detail and start trusting that there's a greater plan at work. Faith allows you to step before you see. It allows you to build before the blueprint is fully revealed. It gives you the courage to start small, to take risks, to keep going, even when results aren't immediate. Because faith isn't about what's visible, it's about what's possible. Faith isn't passive. It's not just a mindset, it's a movement. It requires action. It demands that you do something with what you've been given, that you invest the talent, speak the word, write the vision, take the risk. Perfection wants you to sit still until everything looks right. Faith wants you to move, trusting that what you need will meet you on the journey. You'll never feel completely ready, but you're already equipped enough to begin. Your growth is in your going, your strength is in your stepping, your clarity is in your commitment. The plan God has for your life won't unfold because you finally reach some flawless version of yourself. It unfolds because you trust him enough to move even when everything in you says wait. Faith is the spark. Faith is the key. Faith is what sets everything in motion. Obedience unlocks opportunity. That truth has more power than most people realize because we live in a time where talent, hustle, and visibility are celebrated as the ultimate keys to success. But in the kingdom, it's obedience that opens the door. Obedience is what shifts things in the spiritual realm and causes alignment in the natural. It's not always flashy, it's not always popular, and it's definitely not always easy, but it's obedience that makes room for divine opportunities that no amount of networking or strategy could manufacture. Obedience is more than just following rules. It's hearing a word, sensing a direction, receiving an instruction, and having the courage to move even when it doesn't make sense. It's not about understanding everything ahead of time. It's about trusting the one who gave the instruction. God rarely gives the full picture. He gives a step. He gives a prompt. And what you do with that moment determines what you see next. Every breakthrough begins with obedience. Every door you're praying for, every opportunity you're believing for is connected to whether or not you're willing to do what God asked, even when it doesn't feel convenient or logical. Sometimes the opportunity you're waiting for is already waiting for you. It's just sitting on the other side of obedience. It's not that it's not coming. It's that it's tied to the action you've been hesitant to take. Maybe it's the conversation you've been avoiding, the risk you've been delaying, the project you've been sitting on, the move you've been questioning. The truth is, partial obedience is still disobedience. Delay is still disobedience, and disobedience closes doors that were meant to be opened. Obedience is the language of trust. When you obey, you're telling God you believe he sees more than you do, that his plan is better than your preferences, and that his timing is more trustworthy than your own timeline. When you obey, you shift from self-dependence to God-dependence. That's when things start to happen that can't be explained. That's when opportunities come looking for you because you positioned yourself in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. People spend so much time chasing after opportunities, trying to force doors open, trying to create their own moment, but obedience allows you to walk into what's already been prepared for you. It aligns your steps with divine timing. It puts you in places where favor flows, not because you manipulated your way in, but because you were faithful with the instruction you received. Some people miss their moment not because they lacked talent or potential, but because they ignored the prompt. They got stuck analyzing instead of acting. They waited for perfect conditions instead of moving in obedience. Obedience requires humility. It's admitting that you don't know everything, that your perspective is limited, and that surrender is greater than strategy. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. And that kind of wisdom puts you in position for blessings you didn't have to chase. God doesn't just reward effort, he rewards obedience. He honors the person who says yes when it's hard, who trusts when it's uncomfortable, who acts when it's costly, because that's the person he can trust with more. Sometimes obedience will make you look crazy to other people. Sometimes it'll feel like you're walking against the current. But what seems foolish to man is often the exact thing that sets you apart in God's eyes. Obedience builds legacy. It writes stories. It leaves a mark. Every great move of God in Scripture started with a person who said yes, who trusted the instruction, who moved without a guarantee, who acted without applause. Opportunity doesn't just show up. It's released when obedience meets divine timing. It's activated when faith takes form in action. Obedience is the seed that produces the harvest you've been praying for. Movement matters more than clarity. That principle goes against what many people have been taught. We're conditioned to wait until we have the full picture, the perfect plan, the complete roadmap before we make a move. We've been trained to think that if we don't see how it's all going to work out, we shouldn't even take the first step. But that mindset creates paralysis. It traps people in preparation mode, in overthinking, in second guessing, and they end up watching life pass by while waiting for clarity that only comes after movement. Clarity doesn't lead to movement, movement leads to clarity. You can sit in the same place for years, praying, planning, and hoping for direction, but sometimes the direction only comes when your feet start moving. When you act on what you do know, more is revealed. When you take the step in front of you, the next one becomes visible. God often works like that, not giving you just enough light for the step you're on, and if you don't take that step, you never see what's next. There's power in motion. Movement shifts things. It breaks stagnation. It builds momentum. When you move, you show that you're serious, that you're available, that you're willing. That movement, no matter how small, signals faith. And faith in action always gets heaven's attention. It tells God you trust him more than your need to understand every detail. It tells him you're available for the journey, not just the destination. Waiting for clarity can become a comfort zone. It feels safe, it feels responsible, but in reality, it's often fear disguised as wisdom, fear of failure, fear of being wrong, fear of what people might think. But the truth is, you don't need to have everything figured out to make progress. You just need to be faithful with the little that you have. That small idea, that tug in your spirit, that urge to start something, it might not look like much, but it's the seed. And seeds don't come with full blueprints. They come